You know that feeling, right? You're staring at a massive pile of homework, just wondering, why? Why do I have to memorize these random formulas? Why read this giant chapter, or do that exact same practice drill for the millionth time? It honestly feels like you're just doing the absolute most boring stuff imaginable. But today, we're going to look at an ancient story that flips that whole idea completely upside down. We're going to learn how the most boring, annoying tasks you have to do today are actually the exact things that transform into your greatest lifelong treasures. So I want you to start by asking yourself this completely weird question. Would you carry a pocket full of heavy, dirty rocks just because a random voice in your head told you to? I mean, it sounds completely ridiculous, right? Why on earth would anyone just add dead weight to their pockets for absolutely no immediate reason? Well, to really get the secret of how people become great at literally anything, we have to drop straight into the strange setup of this ancient story.
Picture this. A tired traveler is walking down a dusty, seemingly endless trail. The sun is just blazing hot, and he's been walking for days. He is completely zoned out, moving strictly on autopilot. He's really just trying to survive this hot, boring day. He's definitely not looking at the scenery. He's just staring at the ground, kicking up dust, trying to get to the end of the day so he can finally just rest. Now, if you're a student, this might sound pretty familiar. It's that exact feeling of just trying to survive a super long Tuesday of classes, shuffling from one desk to the next, totally checked out.
But then, totally out of nowhere, this mysterious, calm voice interrupts his walking. And it doesn't shout from the sky or anything, it just speaks quietly, right in his own mind. The voice tells him to stop, bend down, pick up the ordinary, completely worthless-looking gray stones scattered all over the dirt path, and put them in his pocket. The traveler looks down. I mean, they're just rough, ugly rocks. Picking them up seems absolutely useless. Then, the voice gives him this really cryptic, mysterious promise. It says, "Tomorrow you will be both glad and sad." Now, the traveler is super annoyed. He is already exhausted, right? The very last thing he wants to do is carry extra weight. But something about that voice just makes him pause. So with a massive sigh and despite all his annoyance, he stoops down, scoops up a handful of those rough gray stones, shoves them into his heavy coat pockets, and just keeps walking. Almost immediately he regrets it. For the rest of the entire day, those rocks just bounce awkwardly against his leg. They are sharp, they're annoying, and man, they are incredibly heavy. Every single mile under that scorching sun, he is so tempted to just reach into his pocket and chuck that useless gravel away. It's literally nothing but a burden. But he forces himself to keep carrying them until the sun finally goes down and he collapses into this deep, exhausted sleep. The next morning, the sun rises. The traveler wakes up, grabs his coat, and notices it feels incredibly heavy. He reaches into his pocket, ready to finally throw those annoying dirt-covered rocks right into the bushes. But when he pulls his hand out into the bright morning sunlight, his jaw literally drops. The gray dust, it's gone. The rough edges, totally gone. Resting right there in his hand are flawless, priceless diamonds, burning rubies, and brilliant emeralds. Those heavy, annoying rocks were never actually rocks at all.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this isn't just some fairy tale about magic rocks. This is a direct metaphor for your life right now. Think about it. In your everyday reality as a student, the pebble is a hard, unglamorous task. The weight of the rocks bouncing against your leg, that is the frustration and boredom you feel when you have to study. And that diamond you get the next morning, that is your future mastery, your skills, and the ultimate freedom you'll have in your career.
In the real world, a pebble always looks completely boring at first. It looks exactly like memorizing math formulas, reading a dense history chapter, or practicing that same exact scale on an instrument 50 times. Right now, in the short term, it's just a stone. It's a chore. It feels like a complete waste of time. But when you look at it through a long-term lens, those exact same boring tasks are the raw materials that turn into automatic muscle memory, a massive vocabulary, and an unstoppable advantage in life.
So what does this all mean for us? Why do we always want to quit when learning gets hard? Well, I want to validate your feelings right now. Learning is actually supposed to feel heavy. It literally feels exactly like carrying annoying rocks around in your pocket. When you try to learn a completely new subject, your brain has to work incredibly hard. It is super uncomfortable. And because we humans naturally just want to avoid discomfort, our very first instinct is to drop the heavy rocks and take the easy way out.
And this brilliantly illustrates why doing the basics feels so terrible in the moment. Just notice how the perceived weight of your effort goes up and up as you work. It gets harder, it gets more frustrating, but look at the actual value line. It stays completely flat and invisible during the journey. You don't actually see the payoff while you're sweating over the textbook. The value only really reveals itself after a long period of time and consistency, what the story calls the night. Now you might be thinking, sure, this sounds nice in a story, but let's look at some real-world proof. The greatest masters in history didn't rely on magic tricks, and they definitely weren't just born perfect. They were simply people who made a habit of collecting the boring pebbles that everyone else just completely ignored. Let's look at 3 quick, amazing examples: Kobe Bryant, Steve Jobs, and Marie Curie.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the story of basketball legend Kobe Bryant. Early in his career, a trainer showed up at the gym at 4 a.m. to watch him work out. But Kobe wasn't out there doing fancy highlight reel dunks, no way. He was doing middle school level footwork drills, literally just sliding his feet and doing basic layups for 2 whole hours before the real practice even started. Kobe's pebble was the absolute boring basics. He carried those heavy stones every single morning, which is exactly why he became one of the greatest of all time.
Let's move to Steve Jobs and see how this builds. When Steve dropped out of his regular college program, he decided to drop in on a completely random, seemingly useless calligraphy class. It was literally just learning about fonts and the spacing between letters. It had absolutely zero practical use for his life at the time. It was a heavy, weird pebble. But 10 years later, he used that exact knowledge to give the very first Mac computer its beautiful typography, and it basically changed technology forever.
Or take the incredible scientist Marie Curie. Her pebble was incredibly literal. To discover the element radium, she had to endure the massive physical struggle of stirring boiling toxic industrial sludge in a freezing wooden shed. She hauled tons of heavy dirt and breathed in terrible dust for 4 long years. Every single day was nothing but heavy, annoying rocks, but she absolutely refused to quit, and those pebbles eventually turned into 2 Nobel Prizes and discoveries that changed medicine forever.
So, the crucial point is that promise the mysterious voice made: tomorrow you will be both glad and sad. See, when the traveler saw his diamonds, he was incredibly glad he endured the uncomfortable weight of the stones. But he cried because he remembered the millions of other stones he just stepped right over. Someday, when you graduate or start your career, you're going to be profoundly glad for the foundational skills you mastered when it was boring. And you're going to be really sad for the easy opportunities you skipped just because you wanted to play video games instead.
And this brings us right back to you. I want to challenge you directly. What pebble are you going to pick up today? You're walking down that dusty road right now. The semester might feel super long and hot, and you might be totally on autopilot. But I challenge you to step off autopilot today. Just pick one difficult, boring task. Maybe it's reading 10 pages of that dense textbook without checking your phone even once. Maybe it's actually doing the extra math problems. Just pick up the rock.
Let's end with this. Your sunrise hasn't happened yet. The absolute beauty of being a student is that your pockets are still open and the ground around you is covered in opportunities. Complaining? Well, complaining just makes the bag feel heavier and blinds you to the treasure that's right there. So stop complaining and start picking. Fill your pockets today because your sunrise is definitely coming. The only question is, when that sun comes up, will your pockets be empty or filled with diamonds?